SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Discover Covington County Hospital's swing bed program, offering comprehensive care for patients transitioning from acute hospital care to home. With a focus on rehabilitation, we ensure a smooth journey back to your home environment. Choose Covington County Hospital, where your health care matters.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21.
How y'all doing? 2 more days to deal with me. I'm Scott Sands in for Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Lance, it's a nice morning. I'm in a good mood. I got a full night's rest for a change, I believe. And by full night, like a whole 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you
for
need.
me.
That's all you need, 4 or 5 hours. 3 is rough, yeah. When you look down and it says 3 hours and 28 minutes to your alarm and you're going to bed and you're like, oh, my God, what did I do?
I've been trying to take a nap this week, filling in for Richard. I don't know what your schedule is. And when you do a morning show, people who don't understand what goes into it will say, oh, you get to take a nap every day. No, it's really the rest of my night's sleep. we're up early.
Nap. What are you talking about? You just catch it when you can.
Yesterday after the show, I recorded my own podcast. So I talked for like another 2.5 hours after talking for 3 hours.
There you go.
So I was exhausted when he started texting me movie suggestions last night.
Well, it was just one of those. You got to see the Kings of Tupelo. One of our guests today is a key piece of that, and he is a hoot now. Let me tell you. Make him like Holland.
Steve Holland will be in the 8 o'clock hour, and producer Alex set him up and said, I'll love him. Yeah. I don't know him. Former state rep. But what's the deal with the Kings of Tupelo, and why am I going to love this guy? I'm told he can talk about literally anything.
Well, he is a veritable wealth of information, experience, obviously, in the House, and a great lawmaker, very well respected, funny as it gets. But yet the Kings of Tupelo story goes way back to, if you'll remember, the anthrax that was mailed to the White House and all of that stuff. And so all of that's the Kings of Tupelo kind of background story. But it goes much deeper than that, and I really wouldn't want to spoil it for you. But that kind of sets it up.
Tell me a little bit more about what
Steve
it's
Holland
about.
Steve Holland is from a well-known family there. His mother was a politician as well, and so he was mixed up into that. And it's just him being an undertaker as well. Then you got the body parts. You got the body part smuggling accusations that exist. None of it was true, but
against Steve,
against anybody that I guess that the individual felt was. Anyway, I don't want to spoil it, but it's something you actually got to see. There's too many layers to that onion to explain it appropriately. Steve will do a much better job, and he lived it and he knows it, and he is one of those that can definitely elaborate much better than I can. But it's one of the best pieces of TV you'll watch in a while. I'll put it up there with the new Earnhardt series that came out on Prime. Kings of Tupelo.
I've heard that's really good too. So I'll get to watch the Kings. I wish I had time. I wish I was awake enough to have watched it last night.
You are the sands of time. So I mean, come on. If you don't have time.
I did play some online poker and watched a little bit of the NHL game. I can't understand why so many of my friends are cheering for the Oilers. Do they hate America that much, or is it because Edmonton may become part of our 51st state?
Maybe
I
that's
don't know why.
It's wishful thinking.
Fans.
And wishful thinking. That was a tough one, too, there for Florida. There's a 4-3 OT. I mean, come on.
Also today, Hugh Keating, the newly elected mayor of Gulfport, will join us. State Senator Brice Wiggins, and we'll look at the markets with Shana Sissel. When the markets open a little bit after 8:30 this morning. Today, Lance, feels like one of those days where there's stuff to talk about today, but so much of it seems like what we've been talking about for the last week. The ongoing argument now, which seems to be heating up between Elon Musk and Congress, and Trump is loudly silent in responding to Elon Musk's criticism, and I've got to wonder why. I mean, the thing is, they're both right, and I think that may be why Trump doesn't want to poke the bear. He realizes the reach Elon Musk has, and realizes to a certain extent that, you know what, he's probably right on this, but this is how it works. And we'll get into that a little bit later today, and plus more legal challenges to Trump's deportations. But generally, I mean, it feels like today is one of those days where there's been no new news. We're past the Mississippi baseball teams in the playoffs and the College World Series run. The election is over. It's just one of those slower days.
Quiet after the storm.
Yeah, you dread days like this in talk radio. Also, what the heck is happening with my hair? If you're watching on SuperTalk.fm, I'm not. Look at that. Look how my bald spot is really shiny today.
Hey, man, you get used to it.
I'm not a vain man by any means.
I'm very vain, so yeah.
But you pull it off. As I look at days like this where my hair is just really showing off that bald spot, and I think, okay, I just need to give up and shave it. Again, I'm not vain, but I've started dyeing my hair since I was laid off at the beginning of the year as I look for a job to try to avoid some age discrimination.
Yeah, ageism.
And which is real. So maybe I should just give up.
Well, you know, when I cut mine too close, I feel like I have my head's shaped like a potato or something. It's just not very symmetrical. I wouldn't be a good bald guy. So I've got to like comb it over and comb it up and move it around and talk to it real good, and hopefully it'll look all right for the day.
It's funny you said I'm not a good hat guy.
No, I hate a hat. I hate them. Wore them for too long.
I wish I looked good in a hat, but I've got a weird head. I can wear a hat better now that I've lost some weight, but when I had a really fat face, it just looks silly.
Oh, I've been told I look better in a hat. You know, so that's always a nice compliment to somebody to give you. Man, you look so much better in a hat. Oh, really? Thank you. Yes, I hate them.
You should really cover up more of your head. Thank you.
It's like, I think you meant that nice, but you know.
I don't know what that.
I'm not sure.
I don't know how to take that as a compliment or not.
I just try to take everything with a grain of salt. You know, and it's not like back in the days, you wear a woolen baseball hat in the middle of the summer, and that was probably part of more of my issue with the hair stuff was it's just so hot, man. You know, so yeah, I started thinning out a bit around the college era, and that was devastating. You know, you got to deal with that. So,
and this is a weird observation, but I don't like the modern baseball caps with the flat bills. I know it's this is a completely off the wall tangent, but I don't like the flat billed baseball caps. I think they're called the dad caps that have the curve in the bill.
Well, we were such rednecks that we, bent them at the actual middle and broke them and put them in your back pocket. So we've gone way beyond that now. That you can pretty much put the bill. You know, they'll stick it in the back of their where their shirt goes down into your belt. So it's just
flat.
Yeah, to keep it flat. Yeah, and if you don't want to wear your hat, that's where they'll stick them. So. But yeah, we would just fold them in half and put them in the pocket. Brad Henderson, the color guy for Ole Miss, he was a guy I played with and one of the best of all time. Great hitter, holds a lot of records doing that. But Brad was he pioneered for us. He showed us how to do you bend it right here, boy. Come on, put it in your back pocket. You know, so yeah, we all
invented the hat bend.
I don't know if he invented it, but he perfected it. Yeah, he perfected it. He had it. He always had that hat in the back pocket. So yeah, that was our time. That was the good old days.
Celebrating some birthdays today. Mike Fisher, 45. If that name doesn't ring a bell, you're not a hockey fan. He played for the Predators. Retired, I think, about 4 or 5 years ago. And most importantly, Carrie Underwood's husband.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's how he's best known.
Pete Wentz, 46. He is the bassist who married Ashley Simpson in the band Fall Out Boy. They're divorced now, but outkicked his coverage.
Yeah.
I love Fall Out Boy. Mark Wahlberg, 54 today, which makes me feel old. Marky Mark.
Are you more? Do you like his Ted? I mean, were you a fan of his Ted movies?
You know what? I have seen
or do you like
enough
more of
clips
the serious stuff he does?
I like the serious stuff. I've not seen Ted, believe it or not, but I've seen enough clips of it on social media to feel like I've seen Ted.
1 is pretty good. 2 is pretty bad. I just have The sequels are generally not as good, but number 2 was kind of like, they didn't have to make that one.
They're making a series based on Ted, which, if it's on regular TV, because it's so raunchy at times in the movie, I think it'll lose some of its appeal.
I can't remember what streaming service. I'm looking forward to the King of the Hill that's coming back out. I think August 1st is
that should be good, yeah.
I'm a big King of the Hill fan, so.
Ron Livingston, 58 today. That name may not ring a bell either, but he is a superstar. Man. Yeah. Bona fide cult classics, Office Space and Swingers. Kenny G, 69.
And not the guy that ran for mayor of Jackson. No. This is the saxophonist.
I should point out that the G stands for Gorlick and not gorgeous like it should.
Gotta love that hair, man.
Freddie Stone, 78, from Sly and the Family Stone. Pancho Villa.
That's a name I can get behind right 78. There. Yeah, we'll talk about Pancho Villa in a minute, but Sly and the Family Stone, that's one of my favorite bands of my childhood. Oh, goodness. What a good one.
That's Lance. I'm Scott Sands. Mornings with Richard Cross continues on Super Talk Mississippi. C-Spire text line is open for you, too, 601-879-4395. And you can find me on X at Scott Sands Media.
Now, what's happening across your state? Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
In personal news, Lance, my building management decided to finally turn on the air conditioner in our building today, so I'm very excited that I will not be suffocating from the heat and humidity later this afternoon. I did sleep with the windows open, and I don't know about you, but I am feeling the effects of the Canadian wildfires, the cottonwood that's blowing around, Saharan dust, all affecting my allergies. And I think a lot of people probably may feel, especially if you have sensitive sinuses, will probably feel some of those effects this week too, as that Saharan dust and smoke all gets worse across the country, but really in the southeast as well, as the jet stream is pushing that wildfire smoke down into the state.
I can feel it. I don't know about you, but I can definitely, the sinuses, mine are fairly sensitive, so any blip in the atmosphere is I know it. And so I've definitely been having a little bit of the runny nose. So I will attribute it to the fires, but this time of year, man, it's wet, dry, mold, and it dries out dust, right. So it's such a kind of up and down with the humidity too. That plays and wreaks a little havoc on them. But as far as
it gets muggy and stale is the word that I like to use.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, you can smell the rain coming too. When it hadn't rained in a little while, it has that kind of metallic little tinge to it.
You're not a
rain smeller. Oh my goodness!
I do not smell the rain.
Yeah. Well, we'll have a little bit of it today down here. Greenwood, Mississippi forecast: slight chance of showers. And then maybe some thunderstorms after 2 p.m., increasing with some clouds, a high about 91 degrees today. So you'll also be playing with a 98-degree heat index. So be careful out there. Won't be a whole lot of wind in the Delta today. Chance of precipitation about 30%. We can change locations here, go down to Diamond Head, Mississippi. About 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms between 1 and 2 p.m. Mostly sunny, high near 90 degrees, light wind about 5 miles an hour. We'll pick up a little in the afternoon. The evening, though, will be about 74 degrees, and again, that light wind should be pretty clear and enjoyable, though, in the evening as we near the weekend. And then in Oxford, Mississippi, get up a little north Mississippi area, 40% chance of showers, thunderstorms mainly after 2, mostly sunny, high around 90, not much wind. Tonight, around 70 degrees, partly cloudy, so it should be kind of muggy. In Oxford, not much wind to blow around that stuff. But again, tomorrow, Friday, forecast much the same. Opportunity for showers, but kind of mixed in there. So that's what our outlook looks like right now.
The rain is moving in just in time for my tea time today, unfortunately.
Good, yes. That's what they make Top Golf for. Once you get rained out, you just go to the Top Golf and
hit the Golden Tee video game.
Top Golf's about my speed now. I don't like spending 6 hours, 5 hours on a golf course, although I do enjoy golf. It just takes so much time, So
that's why I love this 9-hole league I'm in. First of all, we don't keep score, but it's 9 holes. We're done in like 2 hours.
Yeah,
that's the perfect amount of time to be on the golf course. It's one good cigar, just enough time to hit the ball around, lose 3 or 4 balls, and be done with
3 or 4. Yeah, you're doing good, man. I'm swinging for the fences out of the gate, so I might lose 10 of them in the first hole or two if I don't get a whole lot of driving range time and iron out the kinks. But I'll lose a ball in a heartbeat. Good thing, though, my dad, I'll tell you this, though, my dad has 4 garbage cans full of balls that he and I picked up at a public course here. We would go play once a week for a long time, and before they shut the course down at COVID. And he took more pride in picking up golf balls out of the Pearl River backwater than we did in playing the 9 holes. He didn't care about playing. We would hit one, and he'd be like, hey, let's go over here and find that ball, man. And we'd go over there and find hundreds and hundreds of them.
I miss this about the COVID era, and that's playing golf. Because remember when all the golf courses put foam in the holes because you were stopping the spread of COVID-19 if you didn't reach into the hole to retrieve your golf ball.
Man, well, and then you got the ban. Oh man, I don't even remember.
It was just weird.
Yeah, we went to some great extremes with that. But I mean, and then you got these folks coming over from China again, bringing a fungus that really the only point of it would be to, as people say, well, do research on it, or maybe it's very similar to or let it go and mess up the crops and stuff. So China's not been very cooperative. With us here, we got the balloons and you had COVID and you got this. It's always something with those guys. So, yeah. Hopefully
today is National Moonshine Day, Lance.
Again, a day I can get behind right there.
Right. What a great American art of moonshine.
Without moonshine, you don't have NASCAR.
I have had some real moonshine in my day, and it'll hit you. And it's nothing like that stuff you can buy in the liquor store now, the Rocky Mountain or whatever it's called, moonshine.
And that's novelty stuff. That's good. But there was a place in Yalabusha, and I always like to get Yalabusha's finest, and it was as clear as it could be, man. And get it in a milk jug, and it's just one of those things, a novelty. I still have a couple of mason jars of it, if you ever want to howl at the moon a little bit. It's available. That's the moon howling liquid.
It will wake you up. Yeah. It'll wake you up and then knock you out. You were very excited, Lance, to look at some of the things that happened today in history.
Yeah, it's like a golden corral of things that happened on this day in history. You had the start of the 6-Day War. That was a pretty big deal back in 1967. Israel, amid rising tensions with Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, staged a preemptive air assault and soundly defeated the Arab countries, and notably seizing the old city of Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip. So they're still kind of going on now, huh?
And will be. There's no end in sight to that conflict.
Yeah, there's never an end to that. Ray Bradbury, he passed away at 91. We've known for Fahrenheit 451, and that was his greatest work, a dystopian classic. You also had Ronald Reagan died at 93 on this day. American President Ronald Reagan, the 40th President of the United States, 1981 to 89, became known for his conservative republicanism and his fervent anti-communism, and a great personal style and actually a wonderful communicator. AIDS, 1981, reported for the first time following a detection of a rare form of pneumonia in 5 homosexual men in Los Angeles. You also had 1968, while running for U.S. President, RFK, fatally shot by the Sirhan and the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. That's such a terrible story, too, because he was starting to gain some momentum there. And you also had
and we still haven't, I don't believe, seen the files released on the RFK assassination attempt. And I'm not a conspiracist, but
I love a conspiracy theory.
I love them, but I don't believe them. The JFK files wound up being pretty anticlimactic from what we've seen from those, and of course the conspiracy theorists will tell you, well, they're not releasing all of the information from them.
Well, I love the fact that people go, well, it was Woody Harrelson's dad who shot Kennedy. It's like, really? Okay, that's just known, I guess. Yeah, we don't need all the files. We've got to just ask Woody about Pops. You also had that. Yeah, we've got that going for us. 1947, kind of a big deal, too. In an address to Harvard University, U.S. Secretary of State George C. Marshall advanced the idea of the Marshall Plan, a European, really probably one of the first self-help programs out there, a European self-help program to be financed by us, the U.S. So that was kind of a big deal there. And let's see. I think that's about all I had for you at the moment. Adam Smith.
I had, in 2013, Edward Snowden leaked all of the classified documents to The Guardian, which kind of blew the whistle on government spying on their own people, which, as I talked about a couple of days ago with the Palantir database deal and the big, beautiful bill, has just been amplified in recent years as technology has evolved. And on a couple of lighter notes, 60 years ago, 1965, Rolling Stones released Satisfaction, one of the greatest rock songs ever. I will die on that hill.
Oh, I agree. And one of the greatest bands of all time, the craziest stories about a band you could probably ever even come up with Brian Jones and the history there and all the inner workings and drama and you had the girlfriend sharing. I mean, it's just their whole story to me is
just rock and roll.
Just rock and roll, baby. But they took it to an nth degree, So I'm a big fan of the Stones and one of the greatest songs as you just mentioned. I love that one.
Speaking of rock and roll, 1956, Elvis went on the Milton Berle show and thrust his junk at the cameras, which caused such controversy that from then on, cameras would only show Elvis from the waist up. I mention that in part because the Tupelo Elvis Festival is coming up this weekend, and I think Steve Holland will tell us all about the Tupelo Elvis Festival.
And the impersonators.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
We don't call them impersonators,
No, I was warned that they are Elvis tribute performers.
They are, yeah, and there's a lot of them, and they're really good too. There's quite a few like father-son combos out there. So it's one of those things that, even though he's been gone a long time, the impact he made, not only in just rock and roll, but here in Mississippi and North Mississippi especially, it's just
absolutely
something else. I mean, I lived up there for 20 years, and I mean, Elvis is a big deal. You'll meet people that's all they ever thought about was Elvis. They collected everything, and it's really cool to see that kind of devotion, and also to look back on those types of keepsakes and things and the stories that were a long time ago. Wonderful piece of history.
Just so few artists like Elvis or the Rolling Stones, for that matter, or the Beatles that have the longevity to be talked about and remembered and enjoyed for generations. As much as I might love current pop music, I can't imagine that 50 years from now, people will still be talking about Sabrina Carpenter. Taylor Swift.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I know.
Maybe.
Taylor Swift, yeah. I'm with you on that.
But Sabrina Carpenter, it's just more disposable today because we live in a single song era where people will download one song and not enjoy an entire album, and the impact of the shared musical experience is gone, unfortunately. Yeah. So you've got those artists from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s that will last. Our great grandkids will be talking about them and enjoying their music, but not a Miley Cyrus in 50 years.
The White House to your hometown. This is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
There we go. 60 years ago, Satisfaction came out. The Rolling Stones on SuperTalk.
I had to do just the instrumental, but yeah, one of my faves. It's just a great tune. It's got that little hypnotic, circling to it.
I didn't know it was the instrumental because otherwise I would have nailed the post, which is an old radio DJ phrase for being able to talk right up to the vocals.
Yeah, that's why I talked.
It's an acquired skill as a radio disc jockey.
I didn't want you waiting forever on that one.
I thought I nailed the post and then I didn't hear any lyrics. I was like, what's going on here?
Paul was so funny. Gallo, he would, when we first started working together, he's like, I don't like hearing those lyrics when we're coming in, or especially when we're going out, because I'll be talking, and I don't like that. You find all the instrumental stuff. So I did. I went out and found 30, 40 good instrumentals, and I started slipping ones in with the lyrics, and he'd be listening, and then he'd say in the break, "Man, I really like that song. What was that?" I said, "Well, that was this, and I want to play that one again sometime." So I started, kind of opening up the warehouse a little bit so he was so funny with that though, because he would wear a hearing aid and he would have the hardest time as he would have his turned up. And he would, man, I don't want to hear those lyrics. Blah, blah, blah. But eventually he kind of softened up on it. We had a lot of fun with the music because he was a music guy. I mean, Paul loved, especially Mississippi artists and really highlighting them and talking about them. And so we had a lot of fun in breaks talking about music and those things. So, but yeah, that was one of the ones that you'll see where it says Gallo Instrumental. I've got about 40 of those, and I'll throw them in there every now and again.
What an icon, man! I wish I would have had the opportunity to meet Paul.
Oh man, what a dude!
But even when I lived in Mississippi, everybody knew his name across the state.
It was such an honor that was given to me, to work with him, and that's all I can really say is what a wonderful mentor and a great human being. I couldn't say a negative word about him. I know he loved to mix it up and had a lot of fun with it, and but it was heart of gold, wonderful human being, and absolutely loved Mississippi and saw its potential, its future, and just wanted to highlight that. That was his number one goal, was to talk about the good things. There's plenty of bad stuff.
Right.
But we are doing so many great things here. And, I love that piece about him. The one thing that would make me cringe every day, the first day I sat in and he did the pervert patrol. And I'm like, oh man, I'm sitting there going, oh God, where's this going? And he would pick these terrible incidences out. And that was the most cringe-worthy thing. But he had to do it. And it was one of those having kids and grandkids. And it was very important. But man, I tell you, every time he did that, I would just cringe, and I would visit with him in the break, and he just, you gotta highlight that stuff, even though we got so much other stuff to do. But yeah, he was such a wonderful, wonderful man, and God loved him, and rest in peace. I hope he thinks we're doing a good job here in the morning. I promised him that's what we would do, carry it on and have fun like he allowed us to do. So I hope we're doing that.
Richard's got it in the bag. I'm just holding down the fort for a couple of hours while he's on vacation. But I would have loved to have heard I bet he had some amazing stories off the air. And it's a thrill for me to have the opportunity to sit in this time slot to cover for Richard, who's doing a great job, but to be on the radio back in my home state of Mississippi as well.
Well, Richard has adjusted so well, being a sports guy, and it was one of those things right out of the gate. There's a lot of responsibility there to be able to do two things, and he was doing two a lot. So, but as he slid into the role and it was his, I've really had a wonderful time getting to know him in that way, the way his mind works, the way he thinks, and it's an honor to get to do this every day. It really is. You guys are a lot of fun. And you say you're just holding a place, but you've been with us a good bit, and it's a lot of. It's enjoyable to work with so many talented people here and to bring the news to folks. I mean, we're fact-oriented. That's what we want to do, is bring you facts and give you the lowdown.
And whether you like them or not, a few opinions from time to time.
Give you a little commentary and some fun.
And that's, we're here to present information, but also to have fun and be entertaining, especially in the morning. And hopefully we're able to deliver on that as I sit in this week. It is National Moonshine Day, as we mentioned, and that seemed to get a big response on the C Spire text line.
I like the word. Where'd you get your moonshine in Yalabusha? I will tell you never reveal a moonshine.
No, I was going to warn you not to fall for that trap. Yeah, don't answer the narc on the C Spire text line.
Not doing it.
Do not fall for that, Lance. You don't want to get in trouble with the shiners.
You don't want to do. You won't ever get it again either.
That's true. 601-879-4395, C-Spire text line. Yesterday we had the opportunity to talk with General Keith Kellogg, who is the special envoy to Ukraine and Russia, former chief of staff to the National Security Advisor. He's an American hero and a great leader of the U.S. Army. Last night he sent me a text. He wanted a link to the segment to share on his social media, which I sent him from supertalk.fm. And then about 3 hours later, I get a butt dial from a general who's in the middle of a meeting. And you talk about the signal controversy and the information being shared.
Did you get any good stuff?
I started to hear some things that I felt uncomfortable hearing. And I was General Kellogg trying to get him to notice that he had called me because I thought maybe he needed something or wanted to follow up. But I started to hear about some of the negotiations, and I said, I don't want to be involved in a national security leak. I am hanging up the phone now.
See some black suits coming in right now, just kicking your door in and grabbing Sansi and taking him from us. Yeah, I'm glad you hung that up.
Well, this was after, and I mention it because it was after Donald Trump's call with President Putin of Russia.
Oh, man.
which happened after the show yesterday, and there was a conversation about the phone call. And that's probably not information that I should know or be able to share, but this has come out publicly because President Trump shared this on Truth Social, that he had a good conversation with Putin, but not a conversation that will lead to immediate peace. And that's kind of what General Kellogg said yesterday when I asked him if we were close, if there's any real progress being made in Istanbul, and he said, yeah, no, not really. This would be the first time that Trump has weighed in on Ukraine's attack inside Russia. The call comes as the diplomatic push to broker a peace deal continues after this war, which has gone on for 3.5 years. The most alarming part of this post, perhaps, on Truth Social, was that Putin told Russia or told Trump that he is going to respond to Ukraine's attack, but it showed the tone that the frustration that Trump has expressed with Putin in recent weeks over the prolonging of this war. I think we all know, just from watching this conflict and knowing who Putin is, that the attack on the nuclear triad of Russia was not going to go unresponded. There would be a response to that attack.
Yeah, not using the bombers, though, that were sitting on the tarmac.
Right. And
immobilized.
It's probably to the world's advantage to have the nuclear forces, the Russian forces, weakened by President Zelensky in Ukraine, but it obviously escalates the war and calls into question how much either of these sides really wants peace. And you would like to think that they would. I mean, we've had conversations with Zelensky's former press secretary. I have friends inside Ukraine, and the people of Ukraine, although they want to make sure their country's sovereignty is defended, are tired of the war and all of the civilian deaths that are happening, not just in Ukraine, but also inside Russia now as Ukraine finds new ways to respond. So
that creativity,
people are getting frustrated.
Yeah, well, that creativity Ukraine showed in getting to that, the location was, there was a lot that went into that. The other side is Russia's demands on the Ukrainian people are ones that they're not going to stand for. They're not taking
absolutely.
that. So, in order to be, I think, sent you a piece last night. I think you always say the greatest negotiation with both parties have to sacrifice something. Both parties are going to have to come up with something. They're going to have to give up something in order to get something. And right now, neither seem to be very committed to that. But there is a baseline right now. They're at least having a conversation.
We know what Ukraine's going to have to give up. They're going to have to give up territory. I don't know what Russia cedes, and it should not involve allowing Ukraine into NATO. And I think we're all tired of how much money we have been sending to this war with little accountability and fraud and corruption that takes place inside Ukraine. President Zelensky on social media responded last night. Many have spoken with Russia at various levels, but none of these talks have brought a reliable peace or even stopped the war. Unfortunately, Putin feels impunity, and Zelensky urging more pressure on Russia, and that Putin's planned response means that with every new strike, with every delay of diplomacy, Russia is giving the finger to the entire world, to all those who still hesitate to increase pressure on it. At the end of the day, it's obvious that both Putin and Zelensky want this conflict to continue for whatever their own personal agenda reasons may be. I talked with General Kellogg about this yesterday. I think President Putin of Russia wants to return Russia to some of the glory of the Soviet bloc days. Ukraine is fighting for their independence, for their sovereignty, and the conflict continues and their people are dying, and we're continuing to throw money at the problem. In fact, Senator Lindsey Graham was there. Did you see his hotel bill?
Oh, yeah, $400K, wasn't it?
Yeah, did I talk about this yesterday?
Briefly,
I don't remember. Between this and the podcast, I don't remember what I talk about on what show, so I may repeat myself. Just hit the buzzer if I do the same story twice. So that's the latest on that. If you missed the conversation with General Kellogg yesterday, fascinating conversation. And we also talked about the dangers to American security with new drone and AI technology and what weaknesses that may expose in the American defense systems. You can find that online at supertalk.fm. Got your Mississippi lottery numbers next. Scott Sands in for Richard Cross.
from the Venable Glass Truck.
Day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery. Disappointing, no big winners in Lotto America or the Powerball last night. The numbers from the Lotto America drawing were 1, 6, 26, 41, 51, Starball 8, and Multiplier 2. The next drawing is Saturday night. Jackpot $37.4 million. Cash value $16.75 million. And in the Powerball, also no winner, another drawing Saturday night for $44 million, cash value $19.7 million. Last night's numbers were 5, 17, 23, 35, 45, Powerball 24, and the multiplier was 10. Double play numbers last night, 13, 33, 35, 36, 56, Powerball 2.
Well, the Mega Millions, no jackpot winner yet, and the estimated jackpot for tomorrow's June the 6th drawings up to $223 million, $99.4 million you get to take to the house and pay a little tax on that. The numbers from Tuesday, 16, 24, 29, 36, 45, Mega Ball of 13. And we did have a big Match 5 winner. I went and actually bought tickets yesterday. About a week ago, I went and had my Asian buffet, and my fortune cookie said Wednesday. This was Thursday. He said Wednesday will be something that changes your life. So,
we said this winter was coming. We said this Match 5 was due.
So, yeah, the fortune cookie told me Thursday of last week, Wednesday, something will happen that will change your life in a good way. So I was like, well, okay, I'll cobble together a few bucks, and I went and bought me 2 Mississippi Match 5. I did not win it. It was somebody from the 69 Martin Columbus. Congratulations to you, but I am brokenhearted. Matched all 5 numbers. Hit the highest Mississippi jackpot of Match 5 in history. $1.2 million. Congratulations.
Huge.
That will be reset to $50,000. The winning numbers, which were not mine, 1, 3, 11, 21, and 34. So
we said it was due.
It was due.
And it hit. Reset. We'll see if we can drive it up a little bit, too. The Mississippi Lottery is all shook up for the Elvis Festival. I'm all shook up. Starting today through June 7th in Tupelo. Go see the Mississippi Lottery. Take a spin on the prize promo prize board for a chance to win fun lottery swag. And while there, purchase some of our fan favorite scratch-off tickets, including the Rockin' Elvis ticket with the ultra-popular Pink Panther Diamond Tripler. Just stop by and say hi in Tupelo at the Elvis Festival. The adrenaline continues for the 2025 NASCAR Powerball Playoff.
Moonshine Championship.
Right? There is no moonshine in the lottery. I just should point that out for legal reasons. Yeah. The Mississippi Lottery sending 15 lucky winners into high-speed action. The next drawing is today. 3 winners take home $2,500 and compete in the National NASCAR Powerball Playoff, or a chance to attend the NASCAR Championship Series and win $1 million. To sign up for this, you must be a Mississippi Lottery insider and resident of Mississippi. Just go to mslottery.com to become a Mississippi Lottery insider and automatically receive the entry form. Winner cities will be announced to Lottery insiders first, and then on all of the Mississippi Lottery social media. And, of course, the new games are out. We've talked about this all week. $1 double-doubler, a fast, fun game where matching 3 prize amounts could win you up to $5,000. And don't forget to scratch off the prize level area. You might double or even quadruple your prize. That's game number 1, new this week. The other one is the $5 Gold Rush. Reveal an axe to win instantly. A gold bar stack to multiply your prize by 5, or hit the bonus spot with a money stack for an extra instant win. And you could strike it rich with up to a $100,000 top prize. And if you want to play big, the 3rd new game this week with the Mississippi Lottery, $500,000 extreme cash. It's a $20 game offering up to $500,000, $500,000 in top prizes, prize multipliers, instant cash symbols, and 5 bonus spots to boost your chances. All of those non-winning tickets, you can enter them into the Mississippi Lottery second chance drawing for another shot at the game's top prizes when the game ends. All of the info on these 3 new games for June: $1 double-doubler, $5 Gold Rush, $500,000 extreme cash. MSLottery.com has all of that information on the new games.
Well, back to Elvis. Since it's Elvis time, You got to pick out your favorite Elvis movie. I'll tell you mine. It stays the same one. I got top 1 and 2. My first one is Blue Hawaii, and then I love Clam Bake. Those are 2 of my favorites of his. So, do you have any?
No.
Oh my goodness.
No, I really don't.
Oh man, they're the best. You know, they're terrible movies. But they're great movies because he's in them. And I always loved, reading about his perception. The Colonel. And him and all this, but he really wanted to be a big time movie star, and they kept putting him in these B and C movies and really, kept his shirt off and have him playing guitar. I always loved that. I love his perspective. He was always so upset though that he couldn't get the big one, the big movie. And he's a great actor. I loved him. Great actor.
So I am ashamed to admit I'm not sure I have ever seen an entire Elvis movie.
Oh my God, you don't know what you're missing, man. That's good stuff.
I may have with my mom, who was a big Elvis fan, but I don't believe I've ever intentionally watched
Blue
entire
Hawaii is good. You'll like it. That's a good one to start. Great scenery, great plot, good stuff.
I feel like maybe I have, but I cannot remember the plot line, if there is a plot line.
There are not many, yeah. They're kind of vague. He's usually a rich kid, plays a little guitar. He needs to get out of the house. The parents are a little overbearing, and the ladies love him,
Fun in Acapulco, something like that.
Yeah, they're all good.
I'll add that to my list. You're giving me a lot of pop culture to watch this week. State Senator Brice Wiggins joins us right after Super Talk Mississippi News and Fox News at the top of the hour. Scott Sands here in for Richard Cross.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Good morning, everybody. Time to wake up. Time to shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Whenever I chance to meet some old friends on the street, they wonder, how does a man get to be this way?
This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough. If you're struggling with HR, benefits, payroll, you're not alone. And that's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services and a custom plan that fits your needs. Call today, 601-206-7966, or you can go to mwgemployerservices.com. I'm Scott Sands, sitting in for Richard this week on Super Talk Mississippi, supertalk.fm everywhere, and you can find me on X at Scott Sands Media. We're joined by Gulfport Mayor-elect Hugh Keating. Mr. Mayor-elect, it's nice to meet you.
Good morning, Scott. It's nice to be here.
So, first of all, I apologize. I sent it was not an embarrassing text, but I sent a text meant for one of our producers to you. Hey, Hugh's going to wait till after the election, so I apologize for that. But we're happy you won. Congratulations on a very tight race. This is a race that I was following closely along with Jackson. I consider Gulfport to be my home. I was born in Mobile and went to college there, but went to high school in Gulfport. A lot of my friends from high school are still on the coast. Been friends with the Hughes since high school. I went to high school with Billy's brother Michael. So this was a race I was watching carefully, and we're glad that I believe Gulfport will continue in the right direction.
Well, I appreciate that, Scott. It was a hard-fought race. Both sides did an excellent job of mobilizing their supporters. We worked extremely hard in our camp, and the results, I believe, are indicative of a diverse voting base for us, and we're very pleased that we had the turnout. We about 25%, which is unusual down here, but we need to do better. We need to be at 50% or more.
That's
continue to work on
that's
that.
Low, but it's not bad for an off year, mid-year, non-national election year.
Right.
But we would certainly love to see those numbers higher. For people across the state, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and to reveal a little bit about your personality, since we were talking about this last hour. What's your favorite Elvis movie?
Good gracious. The Pacific, what is it, South Pacific or Blue Hawaii? One of the early ones when he was in the Army.
The Elvis Festival is going on. Can you do an Elvis impersonation?
I wouldn't even begin to attempt to. It would not go well.
So your background is mainly like in law. You're an attorney.
That's correct. I've been practicing law for 44 years, 40 of which has been close to the municipal, county, and other governmental entities arena. So I've been exposed to the public sector for quite a while. I've learned a lot about their procurement regulations, budgeting processes, contractual regulations, and provisions, if you will. It's been I've been blessed to be able to have those opportunities, and I think it's prepared me for what lies ahead. In particular, with the city of Gulfport, I was outside general counsel for 11 years. Resigned last fall when I decided to run for mayor, and I know the city. I know its strengths and weaknesses, its personnel. We've got great staff in place. Don't anticipate any need for any changes. I'm ready to hit the ground running, and I think we can do so. It's going to be a seamless transition. Do we have things that we need to work on and fix? Yes. Go ahead.
So I found this campaign interesting because it attracted national attention. Tim Scott coming in to support you, Stacey Abrams for your opponent.
Yeah.
Of course, there were allegations of vote buying, a controversy with your campaign as well. Why was there so much focus on, and I realize Gulfport's the second largest city in the state, but why do you think this race in particular attracted so much attention nationally?
Well, the National Democratic Party obviously put this in play, and they targeted Gulfport to try to capture the second largest city in the state, I would expect, in hopes of securing victory and then expanding the party's reach.
They're looking for a story. They're looking to build momentum.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we realized that early on when Stacey Abrams got involved in supporting my opponent's campaign. That sounded an alarm because she doesn't have the same conservative values that most of the people in our area do. And it basically motivated our voters. And I guess we should be thankful for her involvement. I think I am.
I'm not sure Stacey Abrams helps or hurts a Democratic campaign. So,
well, quite frankly, I don't think she helped their cause at all. They do, and that's their position. But from our point of view, it helped us considerably.
We're talking to Gulfport Mayor-elect Hugh Keating here on SuperTalk Mississippi. What's your vision for the future of Gulfport? I know you've talked about attracting high-tech jobs in the blue economy. And a vibrant, walkable downtown, which I love. I mean, my last trip there, Gulfport downtown, had changed so much. My office used to be right there across from Triplet Day. And I miss the grilled cheese and milkshakes at Triplet Day. But that's, the growth of Gulfport has been amazing.
It has, and we've got so much more opportunity on the horizon. You may be familiar with the proposed town center project at US 90 and 25th Avenue. 200 upscale apartments, 135 Marriott tribute rooms, retail on 13th Street, a restaurant on top. That's going to be transformative for the downtown area. We've already got some good things going. We've got more apartments in the pipeline over on the western side of the Central Business District, all of which, is going to create energy for downtown with the residential areas, of which we have precious little right now. And growing the residential community in downtown is going to be key to expanding small businesses and bringing small business and high-tech jobs to our area. And from there, I think it'll create an economic engine that will filter out into the communities in the neighborhoods and up Highway 49 corridor and north of the interstate. We've got some other things on the horizon north of the interstate. We've got infrastructure needs we got to deal with up there also. We got major arteries that need widening in several locations, drainage issues. But not unlike other cities, but growing pains. We got to address those needs.
So, what would be some of the challenges Gulfport faces? Are there any concerns about public safety and policing and crime in the city? I know that the city has faced, as many cities around the country, an officer shortage and trouble recruiting new generations to become police officers in the city.
Well, from what we understand, everybody that's in the criminal justice programs, they want to be detectives. Well, that's great. We need detectives, but we need sworn patrol officers on the ground. So one of my main platform issues is to grow the size of the sworn patrol. We need at least 50 more officers. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take several years, but we got to start, and we got to create ways and opportunities that are kind of outside the box thinking to attract and retain more patrol officers. That'll give us an opportunity to get into the neighborhoods, to network and be proactive as opposed to reactive. Hopefully, those kinds of things, we can help mentor youth, grow our youth programs. Used to be that the police departments across the country, but here in Gulfport, it's equally true. The police were your front line of building good community relations in your neighborhoods. Because we have so few, they don't have that opportunity, but we want to grow it so that they can get back to building that confidence and trust.
Hugh Keating, Mayor-elect, the city of Gulfport here on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Take a couple of days off, and then it's time to get to work. Will Billy Hughes's band, Cut Bait, be performing at your inauguration?
I hadn't thought about that. I may have to secure him. I think I could probably get him for a cut rate as well. So.
Right. Oh, man, make sure you do everything above board on that. Mayor, it's nice to meet you. I wish you the best of success, and look forward to my next trip down to the coast to hang out in Gulfport.
All right. Thank you so much, Scott. Enjoyed talking with you.
Mornings with Richard Cross continues on SuperTalk Mississippi.
On and here comes pride in the backstretch. Heartaches are going to the inside. My tears are holding back there and trying not to fall. My heart's out of the running, true love scratch for another sake. The race is on and it looks like heartaches, and the winner loses all. The winner loses all.
From the Venable Glass Trap.
Start your day right.
Good morning, America. How are you?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
I don't know if this is a compliment or a complaint, Lance, but somebody on the C-Spire text line about all of the beer drinking music you're playing this morning.
Really?
I think that's a compliment.
I don't know, man. I mean, I got Race's own Sawyer Brown, got Stevie Ray Vaughan, 2 Charlie Prides. We're in Pride Month, so
yeah.
Dwight Yoakam, Buck Owens.
Wait a minute, did you just say you got Charlie Pride because we're in Pride Month?
That was a joke between Thomas and I earlier. Yeah, I'm just playing.
I like that.
Yeah, I've exhausted my Charlie Pride this morning. I've got a good playlist of Mr. Pride, so we're celebrating Charlie Pride Month here.
We're celebrating Charlie Pride Month on SuperTalk. I like that.
Yeah, so that's how I roll, baby.
I don't know what that flag would look like, but sure.
Yeah, man, it'd look cool. And hopefully just have a picture of him smiling on it. That would be perfect. But yeah, what a great, you like that. So.
I may steal that on social media myself today.
Yeah.
I saw a story in the New York Post, I'm concerned about the next generation. I'm concerned about our youth. Gen Z apparently turning to adulting classes for a crash course in basic life skills to learn everything from budgeting to changing tires and doing laundry.
Well, I'm glad that they don't know how to do that now. You know, this was, what was it? Was it Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber? Yeah, I was reading some other stuff yesterday, and you look. I mean, how dependent are we on technology today? Though, really, not that you won't commend anything he did, but the point I'm making is that we're so dependent on things that a lot of the youth don't know how to use a screwdriver anymore.
Right. Well, actually, that may lead me into something else in a second, but they point out this university course called Adulting 101, which helps students care for themselves. And there's a waiting list to get into this Adulting 101 course, which highlights skills and reinforces to prioritize your mental and physical self, learn new responsibilities, including healthy eating and household maintenance, and explore personal growth. And puts an emphasis on campus resources for success. Here's what's frightening about this. There was a dating app that did a survey and found that only 42% of people 18 to 28 could make a basic stir fry, and 27% of Gen Z struggles with basic soup.
That's brutal.
Open the can, pour it in a pot, and turn the stove on. Or if you want to get fancy, make it in a crock pot. Another survey from Gulf Oil found that Gen Z was least knowledgeable when it came to vehicle maintenance, with only about 60% knowing how to check engine oil. Less than 60% know the warning signs of brakes that need to be changed. How did we get here? Yeah. Is it the gentle parenting movement that went too far? How does Gen Z lack the basic skills to be successful in the workforce? Or for that matter, even to live?
I think, why is it acceptable is also a question that we need to ask ourselves. Why is it okay to not be able to do these things now? Is it because you can hire people to do it for you, or, you know what? I mean, I'm curious. Why now? Well, technology is obviously one of those things. You know, the connectivity, you can just say, hey, I need this fixed, and somebody comes running. And back in I'd say years ago, you know, you had to go find that. Maybe it was easier just to try to learn to fix something yourself. Didn't have YouTube, and, you know, just had to figure it out. So I think there's something to be said about living that way a bit. You know, by necessity, you have to learn to do things. And if there is no necessity, then you don't learn.
Well, I'm not the most mechanically inclined individual. I can change a tire if I need to, check and change my oil if I needed to, but thank God for things like YouTube. If something breaks, you can generally find out how to fix it.
How easy is it now? That's my point. I mean, it really isn't that hard to. If you don't know how to make soup, go type it in YouTube. How do I warm up soup? There'll be somebody there that'll tell you. I promise.
There's probably a training video for that. And now, and this kind of, you reminded me of a story I happened to catch on, I think, Fox News yesterday about the prevalence and spread of using artificial intelligence in schools and how that's affecting education. Everybody in school now using ChatGPT. And when is it permissible to use that on, say, a homework assignment? You could literally have ChatGPT spit out an essay in 30 seconds. I use AI a lot in some of the projects that I do, and I consider it working smarter. But I don't just cut and paste things that AI and ChatGPT spits out, although it's great for creating visuals for somebody who's not graphically inclined, and you can produce AI videos now. But schools are having to deal with this AI problem across the board and figure out whether or not students are essentially cheating by using ChatGPT and some of the other AI resources to do their homework and spit out assignments. And teachers are having to call the kids in for meetings because some of it's obvious. Like if you see a lot of M-dashes in a written report, that's something that's a nuance of ChatGPT. When it's writing something, it spits out the M-dashes a lot. It uses them quite frequently. So that's a red flag that something was generated by ChatGPT. So if a teacher sees that, if a professor sees that, sometimes they'll call them in and ask the student questions to see if they have any knowledge at all of the subject that they were writing about. And in many cases, the story I saw yesterday, they don't. And it's quite obvious. Some of the students get very defensive and try to say that, yeah, they did the work, but it becomes pretty obvious if somebody's just going to cut and paste a report and turn that in as their own work.
Well, professors are doing it too. Yeah, professors are using it as well.
Professors are doing it.
They've got a couple of them that have been called out and one of them's like, the students want their money back because they're like, well, I could be just taking this class from AI instead of you. So I think it's infecting a lot of things, and possibly in good and bad ways.
I think AI can be very beneficial. I've seen some apps that could take and record meetings or a lecture and break it down into easily digestible highlights that you should know. But I think it's pretty safe to say in reality, students in high school and college aren't using AI to deepen their learning at all. They're using it to get around the learning process altogether.
I think that's odd, too, because, I have 2 degrees, political science and history, and had to write some pretty decent, lengthy papers on those, 60 pagers and stuff. And I lived in the library. You'll find everything. You exhaust everything. You find every piece and every little secondary and primary source and tertiary source you can, and you cobble all that together in some kind of lucid and thoughtful hypothesis that you're trying to prove. And so if you're getting a computer to do that, where's your critical thinking skills? Where have you shown me that you can go do the research? You can dig around and find it. And then you can take that and cobble it together in something that somebody may want to actually read. Because AI doing that for you, that you're not learning anything.
No, there's no clear point of view or perspective when AI is especially in some sort of a thesis paper. If you're doing a summary, it may be a little bit harder to spot, but you're right. When it comes to doing the actual research, if you see a bunch of obscure references, that's probably from AI. You're not going to find all of those references going to the library unless you spend hours there. And I'm not saying that AI should be completely banned. I think it's a useful tool. I'm not an AI alarmist. There's enormous potential for smart, controlled integration of these tools in the classroom, but just handing students unrestricted access with little oversight, I think, is undermining the core principle and purpose of going to school. And it's a problem that we're seeing in high school, colleges, and will grow. So I don't know what the answer is. Do you ban computers from the classroom altogether? Do you integrate new tools when students turn in work to see if you can reverse engineer their reports? You've got kids who are spending 30 seconds on a project and teachers who are having to spend hours going through to grade their projects. Just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I agree. It's a situation where it doesn't seem to be above board, where you can cheat or claim it's something you've done and you didn't do it. And again, professors and instructors may be doing the same thing, and everybody's going to be trying to be the quickest and the fastest at getting something done. And so I think there are costs of unintended consequences, similar to what Hugh Keating said about the involvement of Stacey Abrams. It got people motivated, in that area. Well, same thing may happen here, where you've got all this great technology, but yet what is the unintended consequence that likely will result? And it's hard to predict, but I would say you're hitting the nail on the head there with what are we going to be looking at 10, 20 years from now?
It also doesn't really penalize students who don't cheat, who spend the hours struggling through an assignment. And I don't think it's a point where artificial intelligence is ruining education. It's just exposing what was already broken. Students are responding to the incentives the educational system has given them. We're being taught that grades matter more than the understanding of the subject matter. So if there's an easy shortcut, why wouldn't the kids take it? And there are advantages to learning how to do that. It's nothing new. Students have always found ways to decrease their workload, copying homework, cheating on tests, peeking during the exams. But it's different because it's technology that should be helping schools. And right now, under the paradigm that we have today, it isn't. It's leaving schools vulnerable to misuse, and students are unrewarded for doing things the right way. So we've got to find alternatives to prevent that from happening. And hopefully the educational system will work this through quickly before even more damage is done to the educational process. Senator Brice Wiggins will join us next. This Mornings with Richard Cross. I'm Scott Sands on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
By Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Good morning. Good morning to you there.
Okay, up and at 'em. Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
I'm a hard-working man. I wear a steel hard hat. I can ride rope a hammer and paint, do things with my hands that most men can't. I can't get a
Lance is playing all the beer drinking music this morning.
That's
but
the working song.
I don't know why you haven't pulled out more Elvis music if that's also going to be the common theme for the show today, Lance.
Well, that's Friday.
I'm disappointed in
Friday's going to be
Is that Friday?
Yeah, I'm going to do a Friday Elvis Day. Yeah, so isn't that tomorrow?
And it is tomorrow. And Convoy at some point. I don't know if we're allowed to play an entire song. We may have to.
I'm going to have to look through that, make sure there's no bad words in there. But yeah, that's a great one. Chris Christopherson. Come on, man.
It's fine. I'm Scott Sands in for Richard Cross this week. You can find me on X at Scott Sands Media. The C Spire text line also open, 601-879-4395. State Senator Brice Wiggins is joining us now on Super Talk Mississippi. It's nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on today.
Good morning, Scott. It's nice to meet you. And don't y'all know when you have somebody coming from the Gulf Coast and particularly from Pascagoula, you got to open it with Jimmy Buffett music? I mean, I'm disappointed.
That's my fault, sir. We were just talking about the youth not knowing how to work, so it was still on my mind, like working with their hands. But I will promise you, I'll get you a good one on the way out.
I would love to hear some Buffett as well. I didn't know we could put in requests.
Buffett is from here.
Right.
Buffett is from here, and, you got, even though he passed away, talk about a businessman. Anyway, I know this isn't the Buffett hour, but talk about somebody who made themselves famous from the Gulf Coast, and man, he became a multimillionaire. So
and he still has my uncle's. He still until he passed, my uncle Walt swore that he still had his pitching wedge that he borrowed from him in college at Southern Miss, and then took off and said, "I never saw him again after that." So
I think he was in college for maybe like one semester, and then he went to Key West or something like that.
And just really what a great representative for that casual lifestyle and representing some of the stories and legends of the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
That's right. And actually, just to give you a little bit of a anecdote, I think it was last year after his passing in the Senate, actually, and in the House, but we did a resolution honoring Jimmy Buffett, and we invited and had his family come up, including his sister Lulu from Lulu's down in Gulf Shores, and she came up and spoke to the Senate. We all had lays on, but it was really great. So it's talk about hardworking people that did well. So thank you.
I think some of the tension in the state legislature could have been thwarted if you had all worn leis during the special session.
I don't disagree with that. That's what maybe when we start in 2026, I'll bring leis up for everybody and give them out. How about that?
That works for me. What's happening in Jackson County? What's happening in your district these days?
Things are really good. It is summer, and so that means it's getting hot and humid. Right. But you wake up in the morning and you see the water out in the Gulf of America, and you see the breeze coming off, and people are out on their boats, and particularly Memorial Weekend is like Memorial Day weekend. That's when everything just really kicks off, but people are entering, I guess, summer mode, if you will, and vacations and stuff like that. But there's a lot of really great things going on, and I will tell you, talking with somebody yesterday, and you just are seeing people coming to the Gulf Coast. I'm here in my law office, and I had somebody in here, and they'd come here from California. And you're always seeing people down here from other states coming. And, I mean, from Bay St. Louis to here in Pascagoula, and I literally was in Fairhope at a conference this past weekend, was in a store. We said we were from Pascagoula, and the guy just out of his mouth said, "Man, I've already got my tickets for the Amtrak that's going to be coming." So, the Amtrak is going to be running twice a day from New Orleans to Mobile, and those folks were ready to come. They had a place in Bay St. Louis, and so they're ready to get on the train and come here. So, it's a lot of good things going on.
Well, and so many festivals on the coast as well. Cruising is always a big deal. The Jeep Festival that was just had. There's some fishing rodeos going on this week, I believe. So there's always a lot going on. And as you talk about Pascagoula and Jimmy Buffett, I should point out, we mentioned this earlier, today is National Moonshine Day. And there are so many stories of the Pascagoula Run, taking Highway 90 down to where I used to live on Old Shell Road in Mobile. Maybe Lance can find Pascagoula Run if we're going to close out with some Buffett.
Look at you. That is exactly right. The old Pascagoula Run, jumping in with his, I guess it was his uncle's car, going to Alabama and all that. So there you go. That's good. It was on his, if I'm not mistaken, it was on his Off to See the Lizard album.
We're diving into Buffett trivia this morning, I guess.
That's right.
Hey, why not? He's amazing.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the special session. I've asked everybody that's been on with me this week, as I fill in for Richard, for their inside the ballpark perspective on what went down, any of the tensions, how it was worked out. Are you satisfied with the results of the budget?
Well, I'm curious. I heard one. I'm curious what the big takeaway was, and I'll tell you if they were right or wrong.
Everybody seems to be satisfied, but not. And this is how you can tell it was a good compromise. Is nobody's happy. Nobody's claiming victory. I think I was. And again, I've only been back on the radio in Mississippi for a couple of months as I fill in for Gerard and Richard, but it seems like this is my outsider perspective that a lot of the legislation this session was slowed down by the lieutenant governor. And you don't have to answer that question. That's just my outsider perspective.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I actually have stats here. And so I would agree in the sense, and I'll go into that in a minute. I would agree with that, but I've also said every year, no offense to the media, yourself and all that, everybody likes what I call the palace intrigue. And then the dust settles and you take a step back and you look at what you actually did. And like, lo and behold, you actually did stuff or did good stuff. And that's the case for this whole session. If on a minimum, you had HB1, which is going to eliminate the income tax. It eliminated it reduced the tax on groceries. It gave a definitive funding source for your roads. And then, because I had a personal hand in this, we redistricted the courts throughout the state for the first time in 40 years that basically benefited the Republican areas of the state. Okay. You were talking to Senator Boyd about the opioid settlement. We did that. Okay. So we did that. And then I know the people on the radio can't see this, but what I'm holding up is at the end of the year, we get our stats, okay, of how many bills have passed, how many bills have done. And when you look at the stats, what's interesting is it's fairly consistent for the last 4 years. And if you look at it, if you extrapolate it for 10 years, it's fairly consistent. So as an example, the Senate passed 206 House bills. The House passed 204 Senate bills. That's the closest it's ever been. Last year, the Senate passed 212 House bills, and last year, the House passed 274 bills. Total bills passed that became law were 259. Generally speaking, we average about 300 bills that become law. Half of those are appropriations. And so in 2024 was 408, in 2023 was 424, and in 2022 was 381. So in essence, I would say you maybe are seeing a little bit of a regression to the mean for this year. I could go on. And so bills that passed both houses was 410. And then let's see, the governor, House bills approved by the governor, 125. Senate bills approved by the governor, 129. So when you look at the numbers, they're consistent with our previous years. And so, I know that's how people feel like, and they want to say, oh, Delbert didn't do this or Delbert didn't, but you look at the numbers and they're consistent with previous years, and actually they're consistent with the House. So if the lieutenant governor is going to get that, then maybe, and respectfully, the speaker should get that, because the House passed 204 bills of the Senate. So actually, they passed 2 less bills than the Senate passed of House bills this year.
On a macro level, we're seeing some of that palace intrigue play out now at a federal level as the debate continues over the big, beautiful bill and this new feud between Elon Musk and Mike Lee and some others in the Republican Party, when really both sides are right and the general public doesn't have an understanding of how a reconciliation package works, how a rescission package works. Can you stick around for another segment? I'd love to continue the conversation.
Yeah, Scott, because I would like to weigh in on that. Yes, thank you.
State Senator Brice Wiggins, here on the Scott Sand Show, filling in for Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Wake up! Rise and shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Nice early morning surprise.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Pulled in a Jaguar, red convertible 65. Headed home to Mississippi. He's been around the world, that black sheep uncle of mine.
Kind of a breaking news story. Chinese state media reporting that President Trump and Chinese President Xi are holding talks at this moment. Kind of saw a leap pre-market on the stock market that we'll keep an eye on this morning. Some comments on the C Spire text line. Jim says Brice is one of the really good legislators. Great leader, need more like him. But Andy says it's not about the number of bills. It's about the policy, school choice, certificates of need, the referendum process, mobile sports betting, and more. State Senator Brice Wiggins is here on Mornings with Richard Cross. Scott Sands. Bruce, I'll let you respond to that, and you wanted to chime in on the big, beautiful bill debate nationally.
Well, yeah. So, look, we had the special session on the budget. At the when the dust settled, we have it's 1.2% thereabouts over last year, which is less than the rate of inflation. It is a conservative bill, fiscally responsible. Yes, we had a back and forth, but with the uncertainty, we needed to be smart. We balanced our budget. We paid our bills. Okay, what you're seeing up there in Congress is the stuff that people are fed up with, particularly the Republicans. Okay, now I have not gone through the big beautiful bill with an analysis myself, but if what I see is the case, which it adds $3 trillion to the deficit, are you kidding me? This is what people were mad about, and just because President Trump has put his name on it, and just because it's done by Republicans, that means it's going to be okay. Everywhere I go, people are tired of the deficit being handled. And so this is why, and this was said during the session, there's 2 chambers. Our founders set it up. So what you're seeing is people like Ron Johnson and Rand Paul.
Ron Johnson.
Who are sounding, Ron Johnson, Rand Paul, sounding the alarm, because that's crazy, and we're Republicans. So why just because it has President Trump's name on it, are we fine with it adding to the deficit? Now, the hope is that the Senate will address that just like we do in the Mississippi legislature. And so that's why you have 2 chambers, and that's why the debate is important. And I will say the House and Speaker Johnson, it's a very tight vote margin. And so they had to get something to the Senate, which they did do that. And so mission accomplished. And, it is a big it is moving parts, and that's what you're seeing on that. So, and then I'm happy to address what the gentleman said about the specific policies.
Well, I'll stay on the big, beautiful bill for a minute. I could list 30, 40, 50 things that are good in the bill, most importantly, extending the Trump tax cuts, where we face a historic tax increase. But we should also be looking at spending. And I saw Senator Mike Lee proposing a bill that's never going to go anywhere that would make all members of Congress ineligible if they add 3% to the national deficit. I think more realistically, it's going to go nowhere. But if you're going to take that approach, how about you make every member of Congress ineligible for re-election if you're not able to balance the budget in any given year? That would make more sense and be more beneficial for the country. And you could chime in on that or comment on Andy's text.
So on that, it would make sense. But and at the end of the day, it's Congress that is responsible for the budget, the federal budget. So I know that President Trump is doing what he needs to do to shepherd that, but it's Congress's responsibility. And then to your point about, or to that, the gentleman's text, these issues, so school choice and all that, just because his favorite bill didn't get through doesn't mean it's a bad session. Okay. And, when you talk, I've been on the education committee, it is hard to get legislation through the legislature. Sometimes the average takes about 3 years. And so I recently went on the podcast with Grant Callan and Empower and talked about school choice and things. And the bottom line is you have to go and look at where the committees are and where things are. It's easy to say, oh, well, the policy on the surface or on the top line looks good. What is the issue in legislation is the details. And I love it when social media and the traditional media want to talk about the top line, school choice. But what's in the 450 lines and 300 pages of the school choice bill? And the Senate, we're popular of saying, or we like to say, we're the deliberative body. But by the way, this is how democracy works. The House is the chamber that's, quote, closest to the people, and the Senate is the one that's the deliberative body. It's the way on the federal government. It's the way our founders set it up. And so what we need to do is be having a deliberative debate about these issues and coming up with policy that makes it through the House and the Senate that's going to affect 3.1 million people in the state of Mississippi and not just, specific interests of people.
State Senator Brice Wiggins here on Mornings with Richard Cross. I'm Scott Sands. Look, I'd love to continue the conversation. A lot of stuff, positive stuff happening in Jackson County we can talk about another day. Look forward to that next conversation, sir.
Thanks.
Your Super Talk, Mississippi.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we go.
Now back to Mornings with Richard Cross.
Now that's entertainment.
We're all from the government, and we're here to help you.
Remember, JT says I'm for all taxes. I've never met a tax I didn't like.
Well, naturally, a Republican would think a governmental service was too generous. Especially a big, fat, rich Republican.
The only time I've been dishonest that I know of in the legislature was on cockfighting, legalizing cockfighting.
Return the sender. Return the sender.
The Elvis theme continues. Mornings with Richard Cross. Richard is back on Monday. I'm Scott Sands. We're joined by Steve Holland, former member of the State House. Steve, it's nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on today.
Hey, Scott. Good to hear from you.
So it's the first time you and I have met, and I admittedly didn't know much about you. It's our first date, if you will. Last night, Lance sent me a link to the Kings of Tupelo, which I didn't have time to watch. Are you a cheap first date? That's the more important question right now. Are you? I didn't have a chance to watch it because he sent it to me too late last night. Just kind of fill me in, and what that whole story from the Kings of Tupelo.
Oh, well. In 2013, my mother, the late Judge Sadie Holland from Lee County, Plantersville, Roger Wicker, United States Senator, and Barack Obama, President of the United States, received a ricin letter from some unsuspecting soul in an effort, I guess, to destroy all of them. And the Kings of Tupelo is the story, really a story of about almost 2 decades of the craziness of that whole affair and the whole FBI investigation and the ultimate sentencing Mr. Dusky for being guilty of sending those letters. And Hollywood movie producers, Kurt Russell's nephews produced the thing and came down and spent about 2 years in Mississippi. And just tell you the truth, we had a lot of fun. They'd never been to Mississippi a day in their life. And they loved us so good they wanted to stay, really. But they had other things to do. But it's an interesting film. If you hadn't seen it, it's on Netflix, and a 3-hour documentary of the whole saga based on a 2013 Gentleman's Quarterly article that they purchased from Gentleman's Quarterly as the foundation of the whole documentary.
I might watch it this afternoon. It looks like my golf tournament's going to get rained out, so I'm unemployed officially, so that may be my afternoon is pulling it up on Netflix, right?
Yeah. Get plenty of popcorn and whiskey.
I love me some good bourbon. How is Tupelo portrayed in that? Because Tupelo is such a unique city that people should visit if they've never been to Tupelo.
Oh, yeah,
it's such a unique town.
Well, we're in the midst. We had the opening ceremony for the 25th Elvis Presley Festival last night here in Tupelo, and it was a wing-dinger. There's a lot of burning love going on in that venue. And we have a lovely town in Tupelo. We're so blessed to have so many incredible things that are positive in Tupelo. Everything from industrial base that's probably almost unsurpassed. It probably is unsurpassed in the state of Mississippi. 17 Fortune 500 companies here. We work 100,000 people in this general area every day in those plants and the various things that support those plants. And we've got a cultural scene that's second to none here with the North Mississippi Symphony Orchestra, Tupelo Community Theater. We've got good venues. We've got good people. We've got a wonderful dichotomy of what America looks like right here in Tupelo, Mississippi. And we just all get along. It's just amazing. We love our Elvis, and we put him up front every day. And so it's just a wonderful place to live and have a base from. Now, how did Tupelo get portrayed? There's some that would tell you very negatively. It was like as we wound up this thing, the producers had a party for them at my farm, and as they were leaving and finishing all the filming, and they asked me a very interesting question, which I answered this way. They said, "Everybody in Tupelo, Mississippi, and Northeast Mississippi crazy?" And I said, "No, only about 60% of us, and we take care of our crazies. We invite them in, we give them a beer or give them a glass of iced tea, and we love on them, and we move on, and they go to church with us and walk beside us at sporting events and cultural events, and it's a lovely place, and you guys know that, and they affirm that. So, it depends on how you look at it. Some of the characters in this thing were very colorful, to say the least. Maybe a kind word for some of it. But anyway, I thought it was a pretty good dichotomy of what happens. I've been in the funeral business 52 years serving the people of this area. And gosh almighty, do I meet some characters. Even at the end game, do I meet some characters. So, yeah, we've got interesting Appalachian people and a cross-section of others here that makes for one of the more positive places to live in this part of the world.
Well, Hollywood loves to stereotype the South, and especially to put states like Mississippi or Alabama down. So it will be interesting when I go to watch that today. My perception
I think
of
you'll enjoy
the area.
The story is bizarre.
Yeah, that was a weird time in American life. With the Tupelo Elvis Festival going on, and this festival looks huge. I've never attended, but the legacy, as Lance and I were talking about earlier, the legacy of artists like Elvis Presley and the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, is something that will endure, and our great-grandkids will be enjoying the music and the culture of artists like Elvis Presley, whereas some of the artists coming out today, like Sabrina Carpenter, will not have that kind of staying power.
I couldn't agree more. It's just phenomenal when you look at the magical history of the state of Mississippi, especially when it comes to writers and singers, artists. We're right up there at the top, and we have produced literally many of the greats who changed the face of music and in essence and literature and in essence changed the face of America and the world. So I'm proud of it, even with all of our idiosyncrasies and all of the interesting approaches that all, and that's in quotes, all Mississippians have. We're not a bad place to be.
Steve Holland here on Mornings with Richard Cross. I'm Scott Sands. As I was learning about you, it seems like you and I may have something in common, and that I've read that you were a major supporter of the state for organ donation. My son received a life-saving liver transplant at 9 months old, so it's something that I'm very passionate about promoting across the country, too, to become an organ donor.
Oh, yes. Well, I wrote those laws in 1988, and, of course, being in the funeral business, I know a lot about that from the standpoint that we have to have I did the budget at University of Mississippi Medical Center almost 2 decades, may have been 2 decades in the legislature. And I am absolutely one of the greatest proponents there is for that lighthouse on the hill there. And you know, organ donation had to happen for our tertiary state-supported hospital to survive and teach doctors in the most impoverished doctor state in the nation. And it just made sense to set up a methodical way for people who want, in the end of life, to allow others to live on through a structured anatomical gift program. And I think we've got one of the best in the country. Actually, in my years of serving in the legislature, there were many, many states who came to Mississippi to look at our laws and to talk to us and to talk to the department heads over at UMMC to see how all that works. So it's a good system. And I would encourage anybody, if they're looking for alternatives at the end game, and my Undertaker friends will hate me for saying this, but I don't really give a crap. My service is taken care of at my own place. But, you know, people ought to think about giving their body for anatomical research or at least being organ donors because, I mean, we had the first heart transplant at UMMC. My God. I mean, we set the curve on that. And so we got to keep all of that in good shape and have the right situation there to teach our doctors and to try then to keep our doctors in the state of Mississippi. So, yeah, I did that, and that's a part of the whole take on Tales. I mean, at Kings of Tupelo, you know, it's all about, I got accused about 22 years ago of colluding with the North Mississippi Medical Center, our large hospital here in Tupelo, of selling body parts. Well, my response to the guy the first time I heard from him, I didn't see him for years and years and years face to face, but I said, why in the hell would I sell body parts? I make my living putting them in the ground. And it don't make any sense. But he got on this kick. He worked for the hospital and, quote, unquote, saw something and pulled me into the story. And that's a lot of the theme of Kings of Tupelo. And you'll see it when you watch it. It's bizarre, but interesting.
I forget the exact number, but at any given time, there are about 75,000 people in America waiting on the transplant list who will die without a life-saving organ transplant. So, again, I would join you in encouraging people to become an organ donor. Steve, are you able to stick around for another segment?
Sure.
It's Mornings with Richard Cross. Scott Sands here on SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming everywhere at supertalk.fm.
That's all right, Mama, any way you do.
From the Venable Glass.
Time to switch on. Mornings with Richard Cross. On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Yeah!
I think I'm ready to vote for some kind of voter ID, quite frankly. I mean, you know, I can't even go in Walmart and buy a slice of bologna. I've been dealing with Medicaid 20 years, and the fact of the matter is, it is moving a little slow, and I'm going to admit that on our side. And I have to trust their numbers. Number one, I failed algebra twice before I ever got it passed the third time in college. I don't like dealing with that kind of numbers anyway.
I'm hoping for some good quotes like that from Steve Holland. I'm Scott Sands in for Richard Cross this week. Richard is back on Monday. C-Spire text line is open at 601-879-4395 as well. And you can find me on X at Scott Sands Media. Steve, it's so nice to have this conversation with you. I have the feeling you're not going to be afraid to speak out as a former member of the state legislature. I'd love your take on something I've been asking all of the members of the legislature the last few days about the special session, the budget passage, reducing and eliminating the state income tax. I believe in the past that you've been critical of some of these tax swaps. So your take on everything that's happened in the state to move the economy forward.
Well, I served 36 years as a Democrat, and that didn't mean I didn't like Republicans, although sometimes it was hard to stomach some of them, and I often had to regurgitate some of them. But I see this, it's in such a different posture than it was in my 36 years. I've been out 6 years now, and I've only been to the Capitol, I think, twice in 6 years. So I stay here and run my business in the county and take care of my people. But they're going to something that we Democrats did when we controlled everything in the late 80s and 90s, or the 80s and 90s, and that is there's a lot of in-house fighting. I personally think the legislature should be a place where folks not get along, but folks battle it out and duke it out every day for the cause that they believe in. And we did that. I mean, I don't know how many Democratic speakers tried to remove me from the House. I mean, like, get me out of the chamber just because I disagreed with them. Well, hell, I didn't go down there to serve the Speaker. Never did. I love the Speaker and I understand structure and organization. But if the Speaker had a program that was alien to what I thought was right, I said, sorry, Speaker. And the late Billy McCoy and I had, we sat together 32 years, I believe it was, side by side. And I don't know how many times we butted heads. I know when he appointed me in 2005 chairman of the Public Health Committee, he just set this agenda for me of what he wanted me to do. And I said, now just wait a minute. I'm not going to do that one, and I'm not going to do that one. I'll do the other three type thing. And he said, well, you want to be public health chair? And I said, well, by God, that's up to you. But if you appoint me chairman of public health, I plan on running public health. And you just be satisfied with the majority from that committee. And I like to say this, not in a vain manner, but in 32 years of chairing committees and even subcommittees in the legislature, I never lost a bill on the floor of the House, ever. So I ran my committee with an iron fist, and I would even let the porters testify on any issue that was before my committee. It was wide open to all the members and who they wanted to bring from home. Sometimes our committee meetings will last a half a day, and some of the members got very perplexed about that. But when we hit the floor, I wouldn't say we had unanimity, but we had a thought that said, a majority of this committee has voted for this. You better be careful or you'll incur the ire of the chairman if you go against it on the floor of the House. Do your dirty work here in the committee. If you win, I'll salute or kill the bills based on what's in it. So I ran from a position of strength always, and I think the strength today is a trickle-down strength. Whatever the governor, the speaker, and the lieutenant governor, if they can get together, won't, then that's what's happened. I know the first term that I was out, it just absolutely destroyed me to see that there were no committee meetings to speak of anything. It just was straight top down. Everybody was lockstep, and that's not the kind of legislator that I curry to. I want somebody that will fight, that will take a cause, and if it's a right cause, champion it until you either get beat and go out and have a steak and some whiskey at night and get up the next morning and fight again. And I don't see that going on right now. I do see a certain amount of change. I really like Speaker Jason White in the House. I never will forget the day he walked into the legislature. I looked at him and I said, this is Chairman Holland here, and I'm predicting someday you may be Speaker of the House. I've read about you. I've heard about you. You're a smart guy. I think he's trying to make it a little more democratic. Now, I understand in the special session, I just listened to news bits, but that he did ultimately allow Democrats to participate and ask questions. He like the air by cutting them off. I think they read bills forever, which is by God in the rule book. You can do that. So all in all, legislative service is good. I would say now, I'm just a moderate. Now, many folks in Mississippi say I was the most liberal white member that ever served in modern times. I disagree with them 100%. If you look at my record over 36 years, I'm a pretty strong fiscal conservative, but I like serving the people. That's what the government's for. I mean, the programs like in mental health that former Chairman Bobby Moody and I created, me chairing the appropriations that funds all of health, and he the enabling committee, we built 79 group homes around the state with cash for the mentally ill and the developmentally challenged adults. They're incredible facilities in all of these counties now. We could go on. The expansions of Medicaid, not the big expansions, not Obamacare, but I don't know how many 11, 15 waivers he and I secured through the federal CMS to allow our people to be served that needed to be served, those that just didn't have it, the plaids that Haley Barbour got on in 2005. I mean, those were working. They'd worked at five and dime stores, farmed, worked in hardware stores, et cetera, all their life, clerked, worked in a factory, and they had 2.5 children apiece, and 90% of them were white. And he chose to take them off. They were called poverty level, aged, and disabled. We've gotten a Section 1115 waiver to get them in there because those people just had no insurance. They had no health insurance. Those are the kind of monumental changes that we made along the way. And this tax swap business and this trying to justify some fairly silly things to me. Mississippi's not resource rich, period. You've got to have an extra amount of money to operate in an impoverished state. Now with the Trump administration cutting everything that they can, I really get up some mornings and have my coffee and I go, Lord, help Mississippi and help America, from the standpoint that a poor state like Mississippi is going to be hurt worse. Now, you can think what you want, but that's Steve Holland's opinion. Medicaid, over almost 800,000 recipients. That's not a social program. That's damn health insurance. And we wouldn't have it. There wouldn't be a medical center, including UMMC, that could survive if we take a big hit in Medicaid, not to mention the unconscionable act of allowing people, elderly, children, not to have access to any health care because the insurance program was cut by the government. So a lot of things going on. I'm not down there now. I'm a citizen just writing letters to the editor or sitting on my wonderful back patio at the Sadie J Farm in Plantersville, Mississippi, where I live, and going, oh, my God, if I just had one 5-minute segment at the microphone, at the podium again at the house, I would give them a piece of my mind.
Well, I think you've taken care of that now. I feel like this is the Steve Holland show. I think I asked you one question at the beginning of the segment.
Well, I'm sorry. Gallo.
You're fine. I could listen to you talk all day. Look, we just met, as I said, it's our first date, but you're a fascinating character, and I love hearing your perspective on all of this. And maybe another time when I'm filling in for Richard or Gerard, we'll have a chance to continue the conversation.
I'm always around.
So let's wrap it up. We got about a minute here with the Tupelo Elvis Festival going on. What will you be taking part in the Elvis Festival? Will you be there this weekend?
Well, I did last night, and one of my, I guess, most wonderful pork barreling situations was, in my 36 years, is the birthplace here, which is the number one tourist attraction in the state of Mississippi, had gotten, shall I say, in a deplorable state of physical health, and it needed a big one-uppance, and I was able to get, I believe it was $9 million secured to dial up the birthplace, and it's absolutely phenomenal now, and it still gets, the tourist trade is unbeatable. People, especially Asians, they love Elvis, so long live Elvis, and long live Tupelo, and long live the state of Mississippi.
Do you do an Elvis impersonation, sir?
Oh, I don't do an Elvis impersonation, but I sure do like those that do.
They're Elvis tribute artists, I've been told to call.
Tribute artists, that's right. Not impersonators, tribute artists, absolutely.
Steve, look, while you got the time, man, you should start a podcast. I would definitely subscribe to hear your take and talk on.
Well, I don't even know how to turn on my computer, and I can barely use a cell phone. But someday I've had about 1 million people say, "Why don't you do podcasts?" And I don't know. I don't have time. I do 500 funerals for one thing. But yeah, that's
sad.
Yeah, bucket list.
Steve Holland, great to meet you. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Have a great day, Scott, and happy day.
Markets are opening now. We'll take a look at what's going on Wall Street next with Shana Sissel. I'm Scott Sands in for Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
People want to hear the truth, man. That's what we're going to do.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
How y'all doing? I'm Scott Sands in for Richard Cross. He's back on Monday here on Super Talk Mississippi, streaming everywhere at supertalk.fm. Find me on X as well at Scott Sands Media. Stock market opening just a couple of minutes ago, and there was a pre-market pop. There were a couple of headlines that President Trump and Chinese President Xi were having a conversation. I haven't seen any highlights from that conversation yet, but also news that Europe may be lowering their basis interest rate points by about 0.25 basis points. So that may have been part of that as well, but there's a big red candle to start the day. Shana Sissel, the queen of alternatives, CEO of Banrion Capital Management, is joining me now on Super Talk Mississippi. Shana, it's always great to see you.
Good to be here.
So what the hell is going on with the stock market? It's been pretty choppy this week, but we've rebounded since Liberation Day tariffs were announced and the market kind of took a hit. We're back closer to all-time highs. Are we going to continue to see any growth as the tariff conversation continues?
So what's happening with the stock market is what I expected to happen to the stock market. It's been really volatile, and I don't think that's changing anytime soon. I think the tariff conversations and the lack of clarity, the lack of transparency, the lack of any concrete idea of how these things will impact business affects the market, in fact, investor sentiment. And I think even if you take a step back, remove politics from the conversation, you can't expect businesses to be able to offer any clarity on what their forecasts are going to be for the next 6 to 12 months, even 18 months, if they have no idea what the business environment is going to be. And that has just resulted in a lot of volatility. If you even look at, say, NVIDIA, they are currently limited by some of the import controls that are put in place. But they don't know that those import controls are permanent. And if they're not permanent, when they may or may not be relieved of those controls, and how that will impact their business and what kind of business they'll be able to do after the fact. All of those things, if you think about it, make it really hard for businesses to continue operations smoothly, and thus make it really difficult for them to be able to provide investors with any clarity of what the next year of growth will be and what their revenue will be and what they can spend on and can they hire people and all that kind of stuff.
I should have made a side bet on how soon you would bring up NVIDIA, which is a company that you and I have been talking about for a long time, and you've been bullish on NVIDIA for quite a while. Now the company, I believe, is the largest company in the world. I think they've got the largest market cap of any company, and with their AI dominance will continue to drive, especially the tech sector, but the NASDAQ as well. And that's even despite some new competition from companies like DeepSeek. Where do you see the tech sector going, and how will NVIDIA influence that?
So NVIDIA is the largest market cap in the world on occasion. Sometimes it's Microsoft, occasionally it's Apple. They kind of go and switch depending on trading days, because remember, market cap is determined by the number of shares outstanding times the stock price. And so as the stock price moves, so does that bogey. So you can't look at tech in a vacuum. And I wouldn't even say that DeepSeek is a competitor. I mean, there was a threat for 5 seconds that it might be. NVIDIA's biggest issues right now are the import controls, and that affects them. It affects Broadcom. Palantir is another AI company that is not affected by, import controls because ultimately they aren't providing hardware like NVIDIA. But we are in a transformative period as it relates to AI. And if you think about all the times that there's been transformative periods throughout history, whether it be the Industrial Revolution or the Internet Revolution, these things take time, and there's always major winners. Technology tends to kind of drive this change, these revolutions. And NVIDIA obviously is the leader in market share of being able to provide the hardware necessary for this revolution to take place. So that's really positive for the stock. It's also really positive for AI adjacent names like Palantir, like Vertiv, things of that nature. But it doesn't necessarily mean great things for all tech. If you think about Apple, for example, Apple just got downgraded yesterday by some of the analysts on the street. I think it was Needham that downgraded Apple, and that's because Apple is falling behind in this AI revolution. So it's not so much the companies as much as the revolutionary technology that is impacting the sector right now. And there will be winners and losers. And it's not even necessarily the subsector or sub-industry that they participate in, because you can look at Apple as a perfect example of that. It's execution and monetization of the new technology that will determine the winners and losers.
So many analysts, Shana, are talking about the 10-year Treasury, which hit, I believe, 4.3%. Fed is signaling that it might tolerate inflation closer to about 2.8% rather than a strict 2% target. Does that matter anymore? Do those fundamentals matter, or is the market being driven more by headlines, by tweets at any given time, and whatever the breaking news may be?
So it's hard for me not to roll my eyes that the Fed will tolerate 2.8% inflation. Historically, inflation sits around 3%. This 2% number came out of some random conference that happened in New Zealand like 8 years ago, and then they decided 2% was the number, but historic average of inflation is 3%. So tolerating 2.8% is like eye rolling to me. In terms of, where we kind of go from here and what yields will do, Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, came out and said he had concerns about the fixed income market. That kind of sent the bond market into a tizzy a little bit. Ultimately, the Fed is not going to cut rates until they see an economic reason to do so. There has been some data out there that maybe if the Fed was inclined and was looking for a reason to cut rates, would have given them cover to do so. But I think after everything that happened with the pandemic, which is an event that was outside of the control of the Fed and outside of the control of the markets that impacted things, the Fed made decisions thinking, as it pertains to inflation, that it was transitory. That was the word that they used that now we all mock them for. And they were wrong. And I strongly believe that they don't want to make that mistake again. And so they're going to be reluctant to do anything with interest rates until they have some real certainty and clarity about the tariff situation, about how those things are going to affect the economy and how those things are going to affect inflation.
We're talking to Shana Sissel. She's the CEO of Banrion Capital Management and the queen of alternatives. I've seen that gold and silver are reaching all-time highs as well, but those aren't the only alternatives, which are growing in popularity because of the volatility of the stock market. What are some of these alternatives that people could look at?
So it's not just because of the volatility of the stock market, it's because they can actually access them today. If you look back even 10 years ago, alternative investment strategies were not broadly available to investors of all kinds. It was really limited to, the rich who met certain regulatory standards of which they were deemed to be sophisticated enough to invest in these complicated products. But there are ETFs out there today. I talk about this all the time. Obviously, Banrion Capital Management, my firm, and my area of expertise is alternative investments. That's why they call me the queen of alternatives. And I talk a lot about accessibility and using these types of strategies to help ride out market volatility. And so on the ETF front, there's a wide variety of ETFs now. Full disclosure, some of the tickers I'm about to throw out there to you are partners of my firm, meaning that they use our platform to work with advisors. But I run a portfolio of ETFs, a model, allocation model that these advisors use. And in that model includes products like BTAL, which is an ETF that is a market neutral ETF, meaning it buys companies that have low volatility, and it sells companies, it goes short companies that are high volatility. And so it's basically taking advantage of an anomaly in the market where low vol tends to outperform high vol. And that fund has done quite well. That's an alt. There's a firm that we use called CBL, or a ticker we use, CBLS. That's a Cloud Capital Hedged Equity Fund. That is a long short, almost hedge fund-like strategy that's done quite well. MRSK is a managed risk, uses options to manage downside risk in portfolios, while also using options to capture the market performance. I'm trying to think. CTA, there's a fund called HFND, which is run by a former Bridgewater portfolio manager named Bob Elliott that has great performance. I have crypto in our portfolio, so I use a product called BEGS, which is a 2-time levered tactical allocation fund. That's BEGS stands for Bitcoin, Ethereum, silver, and gold, or gold and silver. So it gives me that exposure. So those are some names that I think are really interesting that your listeners can invest in.
Shana Sissel, BanrionCapital.com. I've got like 10 seconds here. You've warned that we're in a potential bear market. Do you still feel that way?
I don't. I think we're in for a wild ride, but I don't think we're going to go into a bear market. Maybe a recession, but not a bear market.
Shana, great to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Wrapping up mornings with Richard Cross. I'm Scott Sands next here on Super Talk Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass.
What are we going to do? Rise and shine with information and insight. Check it out. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk Mississippi.
Motors crank, no, but I'm pretty good at drinking beer. So hand me one more, that's what I'm here for. I'm built for having a ball.
Certainly the drinking songs continue.
Well, I had to. They were telling me this is a drinking song here.
I need a daily playlist from you to listen to the entire song after the show.
Oh yeah,
just gotta follow up our conversation with Shana. As I mentioned earlier, President Trump and Chinese President Xi are speaking either now or have just wrapped up a conversation, and this is according to Chinese state media. I haven't seen an official announcement from the White House yet. But, of course, Washington and Beijing are both now accusing each other of violating the 90-day trade truce, which was supposed to have been reached 3 weeks ago, to dramatically lower tariffs and promise further dialogue. The foreign minister of China claiming this week that America had introduced a series of negative measures since that deal and that relations were at a critical juncture. And before that, a spokesperson for China's Commerce Ministry alleged that the U.S. had seriously undermined the trade agreement by announcing new AI chip export control guidelines and the revocation of visas for Chinese students, and that China was prepared to take resolute and forceful measures. And that came after Trump Friday claimed that China had totally violated the tariff pause agreement and then doubled tariffs on steel. So if you read between the lines here, the tariff pause deal that's starting to look shaky is contributing directly to a rebound in consumer confidence, CEO confidence, and the stock market. This today is the first announced call between the two since January, 3 days before President Trump took office. In April, Trump claimed that Xi had called him to discuss tariffs then, but Beijing denied that. And Trump pushed tariffs all the way to 145% in April. So
sounds like an auction.
This call,
sounds like an auction.
Got a readout on
200. No,
call,
give me 300. No, 400.
Will really move the markets. And I was watching the S&P as I was talking to Shana, and we saw a 30-point move up and a 30-point move down. So it could be somewhat volatile today if you look at it on a daily basis. Lance, if parents are listening, they're going to be familiar with the concept of tummy time. You know what tummy time is?
No. Inform me.
So where you lay a baby on their stomach while they're awake so they can strengthen their neck and shoulder muscles, improve their motor skills. And now the tummy time phrase is being thrown around on social media. It's gone viral as adult tummy time, which is, well, it's tummy time for adults. Content creators say you should be on your stomach for 10 minutes or more every day, even if you're just watching TV, scrolling the internet, or reading, to counteract tech neck. And I think we've got one of these adult tummy time experts explaining some of the effects.
Oh, is that? Do we have the? We want to do.
Do we have the audio?
Man, I'm sorry. I got it. Just give me a second here. Is it going to be the injection?
It should say tummy time.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's the one. I'll get to it right here.
The effects of tech neck are the hours you spend hunched over your computers, your phones, and all of your devices.
Here we go. We're getting there. We're getting there. All right, tummy time. There it is.
Look, this is the worst problem we've had all week, so I'll count that as a win.
This is a really powerful position to spend time in, and here's why. You'll probably often see a lot of babies spend time like this, just looking up around at their world, reaching towards objects, and interacting with things in front of them. Although seemingly very simple, what this is really doing is you're developing these core postural muscles that stabilize the head, neck, pelvis, spine, and shoulder. The cool thing about this is you don't have to find extra time in your day to do this. Do this right now as you're watching this video and continue to keep scrolling, or do this while watching your favorite show for the first 5 minutes, and over time build up into 10, 15, 20, 25-minute increments. This is a real...
So be careful, though, because if you tilt your head back too much during tummy time, you're bending your neck and spine the same way that you would when you're hunched over, so keep your neck straight, which is easier if you're reading than if you're trying to watch TV, I guess. Unfortunately, because of that delay, I'm going to have to postpone the story of the week again till tomorrow morning, and that's the story of the woman who claims her ex-boyfriend's
we have time if you want to do it.
7-year. No, I'll say wait tomorrow so we can. Why not at this point? I'll be back for one more day tomorrow morning for Richard. And tomorrow on the show, this is the segment I've been looking forward to all week. We're going to talk to author Richard Cantrell, I believe is his name, who has written a book about the Pascagoula UFO encounters.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah. Very fascinating. I've seen everything you can on that one.
Do you believe the story is real?
I believe they saw something, and I don't know exactly how you could discredit the story because it did seemingly affect both of them immensely, one differently than the other. But if you get back to the guts of the story, there were other eyewitnesses that claimed to have seen the same things on the other side of the bay, basically. So it's interesting.
It's been one of the most credible UFO sightings in history, and it's a fascinating story. We'll talk about other UFO phenomena with him tomorrow morning, Friday morning, here on Mornings with Richard Cross. I'm Scott Sands. Have a great Thursday. You can find me on X at Scott Sands Media. Lance, thank you for everything. And Alex, Will, everybody at SuperTalk Media, appreciate your help. And it's great to be here. Thank you. Have a great day.
Feeling lucky as a 7, yeah. Sometimes heaven is a pocket full of payday green. And my baby putting sugar on me. Yeah, it's sure been a pretty damn good day. And there's a cold beer calling my name. Yeah.
Come on. A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.